So, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Should I just take us through chronologically?
Yes.
And you can chip in with your bon mots
Exactly.
and your award-winning academic analysis. What are you laughing at?
So, I'm liking the award-winning academic analysis. It just
Exactly.
tickles me. It's not wrong, though, is it?
As you can tell, during the break, we have topped up our drinks. Our gazers expect it of us.
Nothing else.
So, who can predict when the wheels might fall off
Yeah.
the next section?
Yes.
It's Friday night, come on.
It is Friday night when we're
Friday
recording
night. We're
this.
slogging our guts out for our gazers.
For God's sake, everybody.
We're allowed a little drinky
We're
booze,
allowed a
aren't
little
we?
drink, aren't we?
Cheers,
Cheers,
kid.
darling.
Smash
that
your
glass. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, please do.
I mean, look, we could be sat here shooting up heroin. Do you know what I mean? So a little drinky.
Yeah.
Is...
Probably wouldn't be able to talk, to be fair, if we were.
No,
but,
exactly.
yeah.
Just the perfect day. Sat here going, yeah.
Or we could have an E, just go the opposite
yeah.
way.
Big box, little box,
I
cardboard box.
fucking
Big
love
box,
the
little
Rocky
box.
Horror Show. I love it.
I love you.
I love it.
I love
Oh,
our
God,
gazers.
I love it. Is it the picture show or is it just the theatre show?
I don't know, kid. They're all fucking amazing.
Right, tell us, Dave. Talk
All
to us.
right. Brad and Janet, Innocence begins. This is the
Yes.
first part of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So, including the song Damn It, Janet.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Majors proposes to Janet Weiss, and they celebrate their engagement with a cheerful, conventional love song. Their happiness reflects their naive and traditional worldview. And then they arrive at the mansion.
So, Brad and Janet are clearly presented as the all-American couple. Clearly conservative, the small c conservative, very much the trad man and wife roles. As in their journey before they get to the mansion, the Hammer Horror Mansion, their conversation, they're talking about a motorcyclist who I think passes them. I think it might even be, no, it's not. There's a motorcyclist on his way to the mansion who passes them in the car. And they say stuff like, life's pretty cheap for that type. So
Yeah.
they're very much positioned as... This is normal people, and they're going to be exposed into this crazy, crazy world. Interestingly, in the car is Richard Nixon's resignation speech is playing, which I thought was another little tap of the wink to the Republican ideals collapsing. Yes. And eventually then, as we know, we're going to see them absolutely lose all of this as they get the fuck of their lives and the night of their lives.
Yeah, they reminded me very much of kind of, you know, you watch these traditional 1950s American films, don't you, with, like as you say, the conservative, traditional, very binary, very, very trad man, trad wife. And we think at this point, if you've never seen the film before and never know what it's about, it's very much just a normal... what you consider normal, what you consider, as I said before, I was a Grease fan, so it's very Sandra Dee kind of mould, isn't it?
Very much so, and also really playing on the kind of 1950s sci-fi horror films of America, things like Them, the big giant ants, with a young couple who are going to get menaced by whatever the threat is. So they arrive at this mansion that looks like straight out of Hammer Horror, literally. What happens next?
But, well, just before we move on, I've just had a thought. Yes,
Go on.
just sprung to mind.
I thought I could smell burning.
I know, very, very Faster Pussycat Kill.
Yes, very much so. Very
Traditional
much so.
couple, all-American couple, who just embark on this journey together of absolute carnage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then we see them arrive at the mansion, and Riff Raff opens the door, and Brad and Janet, greeted by Riff Raff and Magenta, and then they go into the castle, the mansion, whatever it is, the spooky kind of haunted house kind of genre, isn't it? And then they're kind of exposed to this. It's almost like an alternate universe, isn't it? Riff Raff invites them in, and then we meet Magenta. We meet Columbia, and then they're introduced to the time warp.
Yes.
And where all these people emerge in all these just weird and wonderful and wacky outfits and stuff. They're very much fish out of water, aren't they, at this point?
And let's face it, the Time Warp has become an iconic number. It's been in the charts many times, covered by different people. Everyone knows the dance routine to it. Did you spot a few famous faces in doing the Time Warp?
Not quite sure.
I'm talking about one particular, Christopher Biggins is in the Time Warp. He's just about to go into I, Claudius. But yeah, he is in his former life as a series actor, trying to do some work. But the Time Warp, it's a great set piece, I have to say. It's a great song. I mean, I remember when a kid watching this, absolutely obsessing over Magenta. I just thought she was so fucking cool and so great. I'll tell you about my experience with Patricia Quinn.
Yes.
Later in the
Please
show.
do.
Keep you hanging on.
Yeah. Now, for audiences who'd not seen the stage version, the Rocky Horror Show, this must have seemed just like otherworldly, wasn't it? I mean, I can't think of anything else like it to be exposed to for cinema goers.
Yes, because ostensibly up until this point, the film has been a hammer horror, really. It's been a horror film. So then suddenly you're thrust into this madness of the Time Warp. And and it really has got a glam rocky kind of soundtrack to it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you can imagine it on the stage. So just like... And a lot of this actually did think it does betray its roots as an original stage show, I think, as it goes on, you know. But anyway, we digress. So then who are we introduced to, Dave?
So, with the song Sweet Transvestite, Dr. Frank-N-Furter makes a dramatic entrance and immediately commands attention. His confidence and flamboyance shock Brad and Janet while captivating everybody else, and this song establishes him as a dominant force in the castle / mansion.
Indeed. I mean, there's the shot, the lift comes down, you just see these high heels, foot tapping, and then we get I'm a Sweet Transvestite from Transsexual Transylvania is his introductory song. I mean, what an amazing performance. Now, one of the criticisms that levelled at the Rocky Horror Picture Show is it transphobic? And I'm going to stop us right there because I think it's a little bit disingenuous, actually. First of all, the term transvestite was the one that was widely adopted by the queer community in 1975. Richard O'Brien himself has often described himself recently and relatively recently as a transgender man. He doesn't know. He feels about 70% male, 30% female. He said he sees himself as a third sex, somewhere between male and female. He hasn't pursued gender affirming surgery, and still genuinely probably identifies as male, but describes himself as gender fluid, non-binary, or third gender. And his own struggles with his gender and identity basically created Frank-N-Furter. That's where the character comes from. He's talked about how gender confusion has dominated his life, that this whole show comes from his own feelings of being an outsider and not being normal, for want of a better word, and rejecting the rigid social kind of constructions around sexuality and gender. So I think for people to criticise this because the song is called Sweet Transvestite really misses the point. Yeah. And I'm going to categorically go, bugger off, will you?
Well, look, I mean, my two pence worth is that in 2026, we encourage and applaud people to identify as who they want to be. So to criticise somebody for wanting to call themselves a transvestite seems a little bit hypocritical. And we've got to look at this. This is 50 years ago now.
Yes.
And ideas about queer identity and queer culture were just emerging, and they were also very much suppressed at the time. So for these people can be kind of seen as the pioneers of the foundations of where we stand today. So to look back and criticise on it, and I just think, the terminology or the phraseology might not be what you deem as appropriate right now. But does that mean you have to slate it? Does that mean you have to criticise it? Language evolves all the time. I worked for I volunteered for the Lesbian and Gay Switchboard about 15 years ago, and even only 15 years ago, there was still terminology that we used that were transvestites, which were men or women who like to dress as the opposite sex, but with no desire to become. And then you had transsexuals, which did.
Yes.
So even then, there was only still two kind of official phrases for these various types of desires and wants and needs, etc. So yeah, I mean, come on, have a little word with yourself, give your head a wobble.
Yes.
It's not meant to insult anybody. What it's meant to do is to shock the status quo, the conservative norms of the day, and I think it was really successful in doing that.
Absolutely. As you say, it's only relatively recently that the literature on trans and the academic research on trans has become so much more developed. But let's look back to 1975. As you say, this is an openly bisexual or pansexual even character who's gender non-conforming, he was flamboyant and unapologetic. To criticise it for being transphobic today just negates that effect this character must have had, how liberating and culturally important the appearance of this character is. And to see Tim Curry looking so hot in the stocking suspenders, in my mind, it's only him and Liza Minnelli can pull this look off in Cabaret. Check our episode on Cabaret. You know, so to criticise it for that just seems a bit mealy-mouthed and really missing the point and the context of this film, which is unashamedly a joyous celebration of the different or the non-conservative or the outsider.
Can we just talk about Tim Curry? This was his film debut, and what a film debut it was. We talk about people having star quality, or people the camera loves them, or people who just know how to seduce the audience through a camera. That's no mean feat. That's a skill. Well, I would say it was an inbred skill. Inbred, is that the right word? Inherent skill.
Inbred.
We are the problematic gays, everyone. But do you know what I mean? He's just mesmeric. You know, you can count on one hand the people who can do that. And I quite fancied him.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And I don't know what it is.
No.
I don't know. It's unexplainable. Is it his confidence? I don't think it's the way he looks, so to speak, but I think it's his magnetism. It's seductive. And his exuberance. And he's very much kind of, well, not Benny Hill, doesn't look like Benny Hill or anything, but very, very Benny Hill in the way he gives knowing winks and knowing nods to the camera, breaks the fourth wall. And you just kind of fall in love with this guy, don't you?
Yeah.
Just obviously, further down the line in the narrative, becomes a little bit more sinister.
A little bit more problematic, for sure.
Yeah,
yes.
But at this point, his entrance, I mean, as far as movie entrances go, I mean, this is top tier.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, go on, carry on.
Okay, so then we kind of get the essence of what Frank-N-Furter is about, really. And this is what kind of riffs on, as you said, the horror movies, the Hammer horror movies, etc. And it's very much based on the Frankenstein novel as well. Frank-N-Furter, clue is in the name, is a Dr. Frankenstein type character, albeit a very kind of subversive version of him. Unveils Rocky, who is essentially the monster, isn't he?
Yeah.
Rocky is Frank's ideal creation in celebrating physical perfection. It's revealed that Eddie, who was played by Meatloaf, was part of Frank's experiment, his brain even being used in Rocky's creation, tying him directly to the lab's twisted science. So we get this beautiful Rocky, who's the physical perfection, but Eddie, who played by Meatloaf, is kind of like a tossed aside experiment that's kind of gone wrong, like initial experiment, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then Frank-N-Furter just brutally kills Eddie
Yes.
in a really shockingly violent scene.
It's a very good horror film scene, actually. There's a few of them. But so let's talk about Frank-N-Furter again and then Rocky, because one of the accusations that's being levelled at the film is slightly problematic, is that Frank-N-Furter is the depraved queer villain trope writ large, I suppose. He's flamboyant, he's manipulative, he's abusive. We will see him,
Later on
doing some stuff which is particularly troubling. And it just feeds into a trope where queer or gender non-conforming characters are dangerous, predatory, or morally corrupt. Fair enough. Within the context of this film, though, where everything is nuts, are we taking it seriously? Are we comparing him to, say, Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs or Michael Caine in Dressed to Kill, But Rocky, I mean, he is objectified and objectification writ large. I mean, quite frankly, why not? Because he is gorgeous.
Well, I think it had to do with the silver loincloth that he
Yes,
just ran
he's
around.
gold hot pants.
Oh,
He's
the
got gold hot pants, yeah.
Right.
At one point, there's a shot which basically the foreground is Rocky's bulge in his little hot pants. And I remember the first time I saw this film as a 12 or 13-year-old who'd only been accessed to the male body via the underwear pages in my mother's catalogue. Thinking, bloody hell. And Rocky has little agency or dialogue, very much he's a puppet. He's controlled by Frank-N-Furter. He's there purely for Frank-N-Furter's pleasure. And it's kind of objectification, exploitation. Is that problematic because it's a man? Is it problematic because we're used to seeing it with women and it's a thing, but somehow when it becomes a man, is it more problematic, less problematic, or the same, But he's definitely just an objectification figure, isn't he?
Well, I guess it's just another example in this movie of subversing the gender roles.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
And as you said, he's very much the Frankenstein monster in this. And one of the things I do love about this is the horror movie moments, which work really well. So we get the stormy night when Brad and Janet arrive at the castle with the light on. Riff Rass, the hunchback servant. The death of Eddie, as you say, is a really good bit of horror film action. It's like, you don't see him being axed to death, but you know what's happening.
Yeah.
And then Frank-N-Furter emerges with this axe covered in blood. It's classic horror film. And then Eddie's body gets served up at dinner later on. It's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre, So the horror elements, I think, are really, really good in this film. Really good.
What I really enjoyed was the fact that, and you could say this is problematic in itself, that we have this explosion of pure joy at the beginning with the time warp. Then we get this introduction of this Frank-N-Furter character and everything. But then it all goes very dark. It's not just a celebration of joy and of queer culture, etc. It gets really dark. So I just wonder, like you said about Frank-N-Furter, being this celebrated transsexual character, for him then to go all dark and, like you say, be the villain character.
Yeah, the queer villain trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that, and it's undeniable that it is there. But at the same time, you've got to tell a story.
Yes.
And this is just the particular story they're telling. They're saying it ain't always pretty, to experience pleasure, as what this film's message is. There's nothing wrong with experiencing pleasure in your own body, experiencing pleasure in others. But there are light and dark to everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happens to Brad and Janet?
Well, now, gazers, if you're an ultimate devotee to Rocky Horror Picture Show, we might be glossing over certain story points, and we apologise for that, but we've only got a certain amount of time to get everything in. But then there is a seduction scene where Brad and Janet, sent off to their separate bed chambers and stuff, Dr. Frank-N-Furter comes in and has his wicked way with both of them. Okay? And you might say that is tantamount to sexual assault. What happens to both the male character and the female character by Frank-N-Furter.
Yes, because Frank-N-Furter disguises himself, first of all, as Brad when he goes and has sex with Janet, and then disguises himself as Janet when he goes and has sex with Brad. So, for modern eyes, this is deceptive. There's a lack of informed consent on both of the parts on Brad and Janet. It's basically pillow talk, but in a much more condensed The Rock Hudson Doris Day film. Check out our episode on that.
He's somebody who won't take no for an answer, basically.
Yes.
And it's kind of... It felt to me as though they had no choice, even though they consented in the end.
Yes.
It was very much kind of like a beating down, wasn't it? It's like, okay, let's get this out of the way kind of vibe.
But clearly afterwards, both have had the fuck of their lives.
Yeah, and a kind of sexual awakening.
Yes. And I remember the first time I watched this, that really resonated with me, actually, because it was the sense that Brad had sex with Frank-N-Furter and isn't horrified by it and isn't turned off by it and doesn't get homophobic about it and doesn't freak out about it, but actually really leans into it. And that's such a powerful message, I think. Not that you should go around pretending to be somebody else to fuck somebody, but that actually there is another response possible. Because even by the first time I saw this in the 80s, the only response you would have imagined was Brad freaking out. So the possibility that the guy would have gone, okay, that was pretty fucking great, actually. Give me some stockings and suspenders as well. Incidentally, Brad looks great in his stockings and suspenders. It's refreshing. It's mind-blowing if all you know is his conservative ideas of sex and sexuality.
Yeah. Okay, now, can I make a confession?
Go on.
From this moment on, the wheels of this film started to come off a little bit for me.
Right.
It started to become a little bit confused narrative about what was going on. Now, Eddie's, is it his uncle or his dad? Dr. Scott turns up. It's his uncle, I think, to find out the truth of his fate. So Eddie was the Meatloaf character who was the kind of like initial failed experiment who was brutally murdered by Frank-N-Furter. And then we find out that Columbia and Riff Raff are actually aliens from the planet Transylvania. And then it turns out that Dr. Frank-N-Furter is very sinister. And we have this lament by him in song version. But I don't know if I kind of switched off a little bit. I don't know. It just all felt a little bit confusing, as though the story had lost its way a little bit. I don't know about you. How do you feel?
I remember the first time I saw it thinking, what the hell's going on? Where are we going with this now? But actually, it kind of fits into the whole crazy aesthetic of it. And this ending is actually one of the things that resonates most with audiences. You know, when they're talking, when Frank-N-Furter sings and says, "Don't dream it, be it." You know, it's about embracing yourself. It's about being what you want to be. Even though he's a super criminal from Transylvania, and Magenta and Riff Raff have been there to keep him in check, and then ultimately to take him back home because he's going to be executed. It does descend into madness. It does descend into sci-fi very much, but it didn't bother me. I just thought it was like when they all jump in the pool, it's just like this freedom of it, you know, this freedom of them. And I thought, wow, watching this as an audience, it must have felt kind of exhilarating just to throw off the shackles of everything. And certainly in the midnight screenings and the late night shows you get, this is the moment where people feel it's the most expressive of just being yourself and not adhering to conventional societal norms and stuff. So it didn't really flick me off the way it did you.
No, I just felt all the songs started to merge into one a little bit. I just felt there wasn't enough kind of difference in the songs and energy in the songs to make it compelling and to carry me forward. But that's just me. It's subjective, isn't it?
Yes.
And it just didn't float my boat.
Fair enough.
As much.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine. You know, that's your take on it, love.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't work for you, that ending, but for lots of
It's
people.
strange because, do you know what? If I'd if one of my friends had said, sit down and watch this film when I was 11 or 12 or 13, when I was just starting to discover who I was and, you know, my way in the world and stuff, this would probably have grabbed me and propelled me in, and that would have been it. Fan for life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just like if you miss that wave.
Yeah.
And I rode the Grease wave instead, as I said at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know.
And the first time I saw it, I was still, by the end of it, I was like, well, there wasn't many killings in it, was there? Because that's where I was as a 12, 13-year-old who'd been watching like Friday the 13th and all this stuff. So thinking it was still a horror film. But so Rocky Horror becomes a phenomenon, doesn't it? So we get these very quickly, as you said at the top of the show, as you say in the biz. Yeah. It's the longest running theatre or cinema presentation, still ongoing, still goes today. You can still go and see shows. But what an amazing phenomenon that people are able to go into what becomes queer spaces and just dress up, enjoy themselves in what's a safe environment, whether you're straight, gay, pan, demisexual, whatever. There's no judgment. Everyone can get involved. So we start to get shows where people are calling back to the responses, you know. Then eventually we get things like shows where they're actually acting out on stage along with the film being played. You know, it's just crazy.
It really is crazy, and you know, it kind of makes me a little bit jealous that I hadn't ridden that wave all those years ago. But you know, I'm not slating this film at all. No. I can see its appeal, its broad appeal to people, and any film that does celebrate diversity in all its forms is all right by me.
From 1975, I mean, what must it have felt like to see this originally? You know.
Well, what's great about it is that it came out in 1975, but could quite easily have disappeared in 1976.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was a flop when it was released. You know, it's only those late night shows in the 80s and 90s that build it up into this kind of cult phenomena. You know.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's fantastic. It's just not for
you. So my Magenta fascination.
Yes, go on.
And one of my favourite ever songs is "Touch Me."
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah. I had to chaperone Patricia Quinn at a Doctor Who convention many years back, and ended up taking her on Chiswick High Road for a coffee, and she was fabulously bonkers. I spent a couple of hours with her. What an interesting lady. What a funny, dry, witty lady.
Yeah.
And just was fantastic. I've got not a bad word to say about it. I was so thrilled because often you meet people and they can be a bit dull, they can be a bit, and she was just so great. She's on a par with Jax, actually, my mate Jax, in terms of being so entertaining, so fabulous.
Jacqueline Pearce.
Yes. And just not being a dick.
Oh, nice. Actually was not a dick.
Wasn't a dick.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about a little bit, very, very quickly, about what the stars of the show have had to say about it and encompass it in kind of what this film's about and the core ideas of this film.
Sure.
So a lot of people have said it's about freedom, about performance and identity, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show it's fundamentally about breaking social rules and exploring identity through performance. And the cast and creators have consistently emphasised that the film isn't just shocking for the sake of it. It's about giving people permission to be themselves and to explore their sexuality and their sex. You know, its meaning comes as much from audience experience as from the story itself. So Tim Curry says it's a movie about freedom and people responding to it with freedom. So it's just about freedom, isn't it? It's just about, you know, don't concern yourself with what that person over there is doing. Just think about yourself and let yourself loose and do what you want to do. Exactly. I mean, listen, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, as long as it's consensual, who gives a fuck?
Yes.
Do what the fuck you want. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's about sexual liberation and fluid identity. And Frank-N-Furter, Dr. Frank-N-Furter, became an icon because he rejected rigid definitions of gender and sexuality. The creators leaned into this ambiguity, intentionally making the character both seductive but also unsettling at the same time. And the film invites the viewer to question labels and embrace fluidity. Richard O'Brien said, I wanted to break down the barriers of sexual identity and just let people be. And Susan Sarandon has said, it's really not about judging, but letting people explore who they are. And Tim Curry said, it's a parody, but it's also affectionate. It doesn't sneer at what it's doing. And Patricia Quinn said, we never thought it was outrageous. We just thought it was funny. So.
Love that. And let's push back against those problematic elements we've talked about. Judging the film by modern standards completely overlooks how shocking and liberating Frank-N-Furter was, how much all of it was. It's intentionally exaggerated camp. The outrageous behaviour in the film kind of mocks those moral panics. It mocks those conservative values which create those moral panics. Everyone is a mess in this film. So there's no kind of normal versus deviant by the end, because Brad and Janet have totally gone over to the dark side, if you like. They've had a sexual liberation. Yeah. And it's a film which celebrates difference and rebellion, and in its actual outside of cinema existence, created real queer spaces where people could go and be themselves, be allies. I think it's, and today it's a cult classic, very much to the cultural phenomenon. It's got a campy charm, iconic performances, and the fact that you can go to a theatre in stockings and suspenders, no matter what sex you are or gender you are, is still accepted and is actually welcomed and encouraged. I just think it's something fantastic, And
it's unique.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
Absolutely unique. So good, I think. So listeners at home, quick question for you to think about. When we celebrate Rocky Horror, are we celebrating queerness or celebrating the idea of queerness as spectacle? Or are we celebrating both?
Well, we'll leave that to our gazers. And gazers, please tell us of your Rocky Horror experiences. Have you got dressed up? What did you get dressed up as? Where did you go? What theatre did you see it at?
Yes. Or have you been affected by any of the issues in today's show? So what would you give this out of 10, Dave? What rating?
I would give it, simply because it's not on my shelf. It's not my go-to.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate what everybody else sees in it. I would probably give Rocky Horror Picture Show 7 gold lame hot pants out of 10.
Okay. And I'm going to give it 8 suspend belts out of 10, I think. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. Very enjoyed it. So, next week, in a screeching handbrake turn, we are doing something completely different, are we not?
We're going back to a year we're going to a year that we've never been to before, 1991.
I know. I can't believe it. Yes. We're going to see a return to the news desk, everybody. Prepare yourselves. Yes, what we're looking at, Dave?
Well, it's a very traditionally British institution, but played all around the world. Yes. If I mention the name Hyacinth Bouquet, would you know what I was talking about?
Of course, we're going to be talking about Keeping Up Appearances, starring the incredible Patricia Routledge as, of course, Hyacinth Bucket.
Yeah.
Comedy of manners. Bouquet. Sorry, lady of the house speaking. So, of course it is. Yeah. Comedy of manners, classic British class comedy. I think we'll have quite a lot to say about that, won't we?
Well, as us Brits are obsessed with class, it will appear to our British gazers and our international gazers who just love anything British and proper.
Yes.
But we scratch the surface and we see other areas of the British class system.
Yes.
But amazing woman, Patricia Routledge, phenomenal actor, carried that show, I would argue, and we'll look forward to dissecting it next week.
In the meantime, like and subscribe to our socials at Podcast Gaze on Instagram and TikTok. Follow us on YouTube, the Gaze channel, Gaze, and you can email us as well, can't you, Dave?
Yes, can. theproblematicgaze@gmail.com. And while you're at it, why don't you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review? 5 stars only, please.
Even if you just put 5 stars and write the word fab.
Yes.
That helps us so much.
That's all we ask
That's all we ask for.
Okay.
Right, I'm off to get me stockings and suspenders on and then brutally but fabulously murder Meatloaf. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to take my jockstrap off because it's chafing me. I'm
what-
just going to swing loose, fast and fancy free.
I wondered what that smell was, Dave. Right, until next time, everybody, au reservoir.
Au reservoir.